Rahim, you're over there with...
Thank you. Yes, I'm actually hugely grateful to you, Fiona, and your team for bringing together this happy and disparate crowd very timely. Of course, it's a good time to be breaking bread together. Headlines right now are fixated on Britain's relations with Europe, that one could claim with probably rather depressing ease that a deeper and more urgent dichotomy is facing this country and the world, presented by failures of charity and understanding between followers of the major religions. Headline shockers will tend to bring us together almost convulsively, as it were, confronted by outrage. We jump towards each other. We are, after all, social animals. Gestures such as last week, our interfaith vigil at the University Church in Cambridge remind us of this cathartic power that religion has. Acts intending to tear apart the human fabric hurt the soul so deeply that even very secular people appreciate the comfort that ritual and a simple standing together of different sorts of people seems to bring. According to the sociologist Durkheim, this is in fact one of the originating reasons for ritual itself. Confronted with the fear of the dark and the beast which may lurk outside the reach of the primordial campfire, ancient man dances together and bonds, clinging to human brothers and sisters for reassurance. Humans continue to need rituals, and one of the encouraging challenges, I think, of our time is that the rituals often need to be inclusive of other faiths. Interfaith today in Britain is not an optional luxury, but a stern demand when, for instance, marriages happen between individuals of different traditions. We often need to be more inclusive at funerals and other life events also. Sometimes, admittedly, we are a little slow to catch up. Last year's 100th Armistice Day commemorations in Cambridge drew many Jews, Muslims and others whose families fought in this country's wars. Imagine their perplexity when everybody was invited to sing O Valiant Hearts. But our spaces and our rituals are increasingly visited by the religious other, and with increasing frequency we find an Abrahamic hospitality being, as it were, rediscovered and even strangely experienced, I think, as a kind of renewal of faith. In the particular context of Islam, this began long ago with the famous story of the visit of the bishop of a place called Najran to the prophet city of Medina. The time came around for the bishop to celebrate Mass, and the prophet invites the bishop and his delegation to celebrate it in his mosque. Muslims always note the edifying, tolerant lesson here, but we should recall the hardly less interesting fact that the bishop accepted the invitation. He was not a fanatic either. So weddings or armistice days or atrocity vigils do bring us together, and we are learning how to do these things well. The spectacle of a gracious mutual welcome does much to correct secular perceptions of a necessary antagonism between the faiths. Humbly together, we bear witness to togetherness, to the determination of our traditions to shout a resounding no to those who divide us and to those who blame us for division. Not in our name, we say, in mute eloquence in those gatherings, and there's a kind of charismatic blessing which we sense somehow present amongst us. This is no sort of religious compromise. Official boundaries are not being violated, but we do detect, at least sometimes, the presence of an enigmatic grace. On the day of the Christchurch massacre, the new mosque in Cambridge opened for prayer for the first time. Several groups of tearful New Zealanders visited with messages of condolence, and the flowers they brought adorned the prayer niche in which our Imam said the mosque's maiden prayer. This was not experienced by the 1,000 or so very diverse worshippers present as some kind of syncretism or compromise from addle-headed do-gooders. This was an authentic and a strengthening religious event. Inclusion is not the same as dilution. So in multi-religious Britain we are learning, and we know, that neighbourliness across ancient boundaries is practically possible and also spiritually restorative. Perhaps in our conversations today, we're going to speculate about other key areas of our troubled modern life in which solidarity and bonding can help us, and again, could help bear witness to a sceptical world about the value of religious faith. Examples of this, as it happens, spring quite readily to mind, since the deepest travails of our 21st century world are not, despite the claims of detractors, the result of faith, but of materialism and egotism. Just a few examples. Example number one, climate change. This is the consequence of scientific advances unaccompanied by any improvement in the human capacity for self-restraint. Human avidity, revved up by turbo-capitalism, is threatening the future of all human beings, irrespective of religious tradition. Science, once hailed bravely as an alternative to religion, turns out to have far more deadly implications. In Cambridge, the astronomer Martin Rees, in a recent book, predicts that humanity will end in the present century in consequence of the use and the abuse of the gift of technology. Here, surely, religions must collaborate and stand together. Materialism, living by bread alone, is leading to the end of life itself. Example number two. George Monbiot calls our age the age of loneliness. Individualism is tearing society apart. When my neighbour died alone last year, it was several weeks before anyone noticed. I'm also to blame. No one called at her house. But Christianity and Islam are strongly fellowship-oriented, family-emphasising traditions, and we take solitary living to be an occasional calling, not a kind of human default. Yesterday, I was with my wife's Asian family. As usual, there were at least 20 people in the house, and 4 generations, the elderly included, the babies caressed, and it was obvious that this is how human beings used to live in every culture. And we really have to work together to preserve and to champion this as the normal, default human way of living. Example number 3. Europe and, sadly, the world in general is entering an age of xenophobic populism. And all the recent studies predict that this is going to grow stronger in the years to come. Where this leans on religious themes, the result tends to discredit religion. Where society no longer responds to religious symbols, having been deeply secularized, the result is reliance on racial or vague civilizational claims to authentic belonging. The new movements in Europe tend to be specifically anti-Muslim. They're also typically pro-Zionist, pro-feminist, pro-homosexualist, and anti-European. This, for many of us, is a very strange, uncomfortable, incongruous juxtaposition of formulas that is now electorally triumphant. And it's been studied, for instance, by Roger Eatwell and Matthew Goodwin in their new book, National Populism, the Revolt Against Liberal Democracy, which I suggest we all study carefully. Thankfully, as Muslims are beginning to realise, mainline churches across Europe are usually vocal in their opposition to this new xenophobia, which has failed to mobilise their support. Clearly, there are rich opportunities for deeper collaboration and fellowship here. Example number 3. There is a reciprocal xenophobia in many Muslim countries, which is in some cases still more lethal. We recall the shameful recent episode of Asia Bibi, the Christian Pakistani woman accused of blasphemy and finally acquitted. Very many other cases of the marginalising and ugly treatment of Christians in Muslim countries could be cited. Campaigns on their behalf need to include a strong and sincere representation from both faiths. No kind of expression of prejudice or Islamophobia if Christians in the UK ask their Muslim neighbours to denounce such injustices. Still another example. The iconic issue in the West's travails with the Muslim world is, of course, Israel-Palestine. I've accompanied a group of South African liberation theologians on a tour of the Holy Land, part organised by the Diocese of Oxford. The South Africans were unanimous in concluding that what the Palestinians are suffering is worse than what black South Africans suffered under apartheid. Their presence was warmly welcomed and appreciated and helped to counter a growing Muslim fundamentalist narrative that holds that all Christians support the uber-Zionism of American religious right. So I've offered just 5 examples of ways in which we can and ought to collaborate, and causes in which I think we can probably stand shoulder to shoulder without risking the least theological compromise. The world is hurting, and religion is meant to be, as the Quran says, a mercy and a healing. But this is not an age in which we can be triumphalists. Muslim credibility has been grievously damaged by international terrorism. Christianity, too, has been hurt. Remember Archbishop George Gainswain's recent remark that sexual abuse is the Church's own 9/11. Humility must be the governing virtue of our councils and our togetherness. So, welcome again. Thank you again. I hope that I've at least reminded you that what we represent, or could represent, is actually something very momentous indeed. That the angels bless our councils, strengthen our faith, and overcome our misgivings. Amen.
I mishear you in saying that pro-Zionism was one of the contributory factors. Could you explain that?
It's a very awkward and incongruous basket of policies. If you look at Iqbal's book, he tries to explain how it is that xenophobia, 70 years after the Second World War, has finally found an ideology, and he concludes that it's not really an ideology of the right in some kind of a simple way, and that very many of them do tend to be very strongly pro-Zionist, insofar as they identify with what they take to be Zionism's campaign of marginalising, pushing out Muslims and replacing them with a Western culture. I make no judgment on whether that's a legitimate perception or not, but it is a widespread position of many, but not all, of the far-right movements, or some of them populist movements across Europe. Living Le Pen, for instance, Geert Wilders, they're all pressing very hard for the moving of their country's emphasis to Jerusalem, and the recognition of Israeli control of the Golan Heights. It's part of the oddness of the situation that we face now, and I think Muslims as well as traditional liberals have been quite wrong-footed by this new package. Some xenophobic movements are anti-Zionist and more or less overtly or covertly anti-Semitic. Viktor Orban's movement in Hungary would be an example of that. That is, as Richard Harris says, Europe's light sleeper. Doesn't take much to reopen the infernal volcanic vents of anti-Semitism. Somehow it hasn't gone away. And that can be an ingredient, but more often, according to these studies, it's a kind of philo-Zionism that is regarded as part of the general campaign against Muslims in Europe, which is a key issue for most of these movements.
Any wrong policy in Palestine, for example, because if you denounce that, then you are easily or likely to be called anti-Semitic. When do you draw the line as people of faith between defending the oppressed and also not engaging into anti-Semitism or Islamophobia?
Well, this is a very sensitive topic. I'm not sure I'm the best person to ask. My experience of travelling to the occupied territories with these South African liberation theologians was that I didn't detect any trace of traditional anti-Jewishness amongst them. They were very keen to go to the Holocaust Museum and to the Knesset and to meet even secular rabbis. But their conclusion was that this is a form of apartheid, racial exclusion, and the wall, and many recent legislative events in Israel's history are for them strongly reminiscent of their experience under apartheid South Africa, and as I say, even worse.
Can the church verify
again, I can't speak for the Church of England, but my experience there was that the Palestinian churches do feel that they are only quietly supported by many of the churches in the West, who feel that the larger issue is to build bridges with Jewish communities following the Holocaust. That's the impression that I received, say, from the former Anglican Bishop of Jerusalem. Obviously, it's a very difficult balancing act. There's no easy resolution.
What advice do you give amongst your students? What advice do you give to young people who want to have these difficult conversations across the boundaries around the issues you mentioned, but are actually quite fearful before engaging? Because academics, priests, people with that scholarship may have the confidence to do so, but younger people struggle, and therefore they close those conversations down. What advice would you give? Thank you.
Well, I think there's quite a lot of fear and trepidation amongst a lot of conservative Catholics, Orthodox believers, African Pentecostalists and so forth, Muslims who may not feel at ease with some of the new social beliefs that are prevalent in modern Britain, and that they feel that the best response is simply not to put their voices in the public square because they will be labelled as suffering from some kind of phobia or chauvinism, and therefore they choose just to hold their peace. That may, in the circumstances, be the wisest counsel. But maybe that's another thing that we could discuss. Just about pressing all of the panic buttons, I think.